this lap with some telemetry and turning throughout this, braking quite late into this corner. And now here's where it sort of catches me out a little bit. Alright guys, so we're back now for our Singapore track guide. This time I'll be showing you this lap with some telemetry data to help you guys improve your race and quali pace around one of the more difficult circuits on the F1 calendar. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to my future self, where I'm going to help you guys with a slow run around the circuit. So let's go. Okay then, so going into this final corner now, 6th gear, you want to use all the track that you can, pretty much right up until the wall so you can carry the speed in, and then you want to flip the car in, carry as much as you can, right over this curb without bottoming out, as we kind of almost did there, and then use as much of the track as possible, open up DRS, and you're starting a lap around Singapore. So this first corner, I believe in the race you're probably going to be in 7th gear, but in qualifying you can be in 8th as you'll have the speed for it. So 8th gear, you want to brake just after the black box. Lighter braking going into this corner because it is a higher speed corner than usual, so you want to be lighter on the brakes. So 1, you can carry more speed in, and 2, so that the cars are just you know, more flat, so you're not braking, so the nose isn't pointing down to the ground, and then you end up just carrying less speed overall. So just be lighter on the brakes. Into 4th gear, right over this curb without bottoming out, of course, and then you'll be carrying all that speed, all that momentum over this curb. You pretty much want to have your left hand tires just outside of the white line. And then speaking of the white line, when you get to the end of the pit exit, so this white line here, that's when you want to start braking. So just after that, boom, hit the brakes. Well, don't hit the brakes too hard. You want to be, again, light on the brakes to carry the speed around this hairpin. 3rd gear, you don't want to touch the curb, so you want to be as close to the curb as possible when you hit the apex. And then use all the track so that you can straight line the car, get the traction down, then shoot your car back over to the left hand side. I believe you're going to be in 6th or 7th gear going into this next corner, just before the black box. Again, lighter on the brakes so you can carry the speed around the corner, down into 4th gear, right over this curb, and then just get your foot back onto the throttle, open up DRS, use the track so you can straight line the car to get better braking, well, better traction I should say, not better braking, and then pretty much you want to bomb it down to the end of sector 1 here. So for the end of sector 1, braking quite late into this corner, roughly about 70 meters or so, from 8th gear, a bit heavier on the brakes than you would in the first sector, just because it is a slower speed corner. So down into 4th gear, and then you want to ride over this curb. Use all the exit that you can, again, to straight line the car, and then shoot the car back over to the left. I believe you'll be in 5th gear, or you might want to stay in 4th gear. I'm not sure what I did in my lap now. It's been a few days since I've done that. But then you want to brake in a straight line down into 3rd gear, carry the speed around the corner. Now, when you are in the race, by the way, you are going to be on hard tires or medium tires for the duration of the race. So you might want to, for some of the slow speed corners, for example, use 1 gear lower, just so you can get the car rotated around, just because obviously those tires don't have as much grip as the softs, of course. So just keep that in mind. For some of the corners, you might be in a different gear in the race than you would be in qualifying. This next corner, you want to use all the track going into it, 4th gear throughout the corner. So when you're coming into it, you'll be in 4th, and as you go through the corner, you'll be in 4th. Use as much track as you can. Pretty much want to have your left tires as close to the outside or the inside of the white line as possible, so you don't invalidate, but using all the track. Then for this corner, you don't want to ride over the curb. You don't even want to touch it because it can slow you down throughout this corner. So you just want to be as close to it as you can without touching it. And get your foot back on the throttle as soon as you can. Just be wary you don't understeer into that wall there, or else you're going to lose a wheel. Now for this next corner, 7th gear, braking quite deep into the corner, right about here, a bit heavier on the brakes just because you want to keep a tighter line for this corner for the next corner. So yeah, a bit deeper into the corner, a bit harder on the brakes, down into 4th gear, right over this curb. Try and keep the car as close to the left hand side as you possibly can. Keep it in 4th, keep it in 4th, and then 1 downshift into 3rd as you get towards this next corner. Once again, don't touch the curb, just leave it, because it can unsettle the car and send you on a sort of line trajectory that will end up messing you up through this section. So just miss the curb. And then for this year's game, you don't want to touch this curb as well. Usually in the previous games, you would actually route over this curb just for a little bit less track. But for this one, you don't want to do that. The car will unsettle. So yeah, then you want to stick the car right around about here, not necessarily far left, but just in between the left and the middle of the track. Going to be in 5th or 6th gear going into this corner, I believe. The reason why you're doing that is because you want to straight line this next braking zone as much as possible. It's a heavier braking zone, however, as you can see, the track is still weaving and turning throughout this corner. So yeah, you want to straight line as much as possible. So you want to cut the car right basically, and then straight line the car whilst braking. So down into 3rd gear for this corner in a straight line for this hairpin, and then you want to carry as much speed through the hairpin as possible. Then of course you want to use as much as track as possible to get the best traction, open up the DRS, and then we're ending off sector 2 here with a pretty tricky corner in my opinion. This corner, especially the exit when you're on qualifying, has caught me out quite a lot. So going into it, you're going to be in 7th gear, just after the 100 meter board, brake down into 4th gear or 3rd gear. One of the two, and then you want to miss this curb in here. Now here's where it sort of catches me out a little bit, because you want to get on the throttle as soon as you can. However, as you can see, the white line on the exit actually goes diagonally in, so if you get caught off guard, you can end up just doing this, and then you've invalidated your lap. So you actually want to keep turning whilst you're on the throttle coming out of this corner, so that you can stay off of this white line with your right hand tires to avoid invalidating. So make sure you do that, continue turning right. And then for this corner, once again, very similar to the hairpin that we've just passed not too long ago, you want to try and straight line this braking zone as much as possible, because the corner's sort of still turning in as you'll be braking. So you want to be in the middle of the track, 5th gear down into 4th gear, or 6th gear down into 4th gear, straight line the braking. Use 4th gear through here. And then if you want to, you can also downshift into 3rd gear for this section, or you can use 4th, it doesn't matter. All you really want is to just carry as much speed as possible. So just right over this. The car can bottom out a little bit, so you do want to be careful with that. But just carry as much speed as you can. Try not hit the wall to lose your front wing or your wheel. This next corner, 5th gear, just before the black box, or just on the black box, depending on how confident you are. You want to brake until the car is pretty much on the curbing here. So just again, so you can carry as much speed through this corner as possible. I believe you'll be in 3rd gear here, right over this curb, and then you want to be in the middle of the track, attack this corner as much as you can in 3rd gear, and then upshift to 4th, just so you can get the rotation in and get on the throttle as quickly as possible. Now in 4th, just as you're passing the black box on the right hand side, so around about here is where you want light braking into this corner. Stay in 4th gear, and then just touch the curbs with the tires here. Now this corner, I believe it's a little bit more tricky to handle in this year's game than it was on F1 2021, so maybe just have your tires right over the curb instead of, you know, cutting it completely. And then again, just use all the track to get the traction down for the final corner, very similar to how you would take it at the beginning of the lap. In 6th gear, just use as much of the track as possible, flick the car in, carry as much speed right over this curb, and then there you go, you've finished a lap around Singapore. So let's get into the hot lap so you can see how to tackle this circuit in real time.
last lap was a 1 minute 35.
That's pretty much how you tackle one of the most difficult tracks on the Formula 1 calendar, Singapore. So once you've mastered this track, this isn't the only track on the calendar, of course. You want to be able to master every single track that there is. And to do that, you're going to need more track guides. And that's why you should click on this playlist to get access to all the track guides that I've done up until this point. So make sure to check them all out so you can improve at all those other tracks.